Hi friends, welcome here. I'm Aimee Esther. I live with multiple chronic illnesses, and the question I get asked a lot is, how did it start? Was I born with this? Did this start from something else? And it's so complicated, and it's changed over the years. In fact, I think I've done probably 2 videos at this point explaining how my chronic illnesses started, but I've learned more since then. I live with POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, chronic migraines, mast cell activation syndrome, small intestine bacterial overgrowth, Hashimoto's disease. I had a diseased gallbladder, had that taken out, endometriosis, PCOS. Also have now since then had a hysterectomy, so I don't seem to have problems there anymore, but that was part of my story. And chronic migraines, I'm sure I'm missing something in the list, as well as anxiety, depression, and I was diagnosed with PTSD and ADHD. Woo, it's a party over here. My body is very messed up. All of these diagnoses have come over the last few years, but it started one day. Okay, back up. The majority of it, the parts that make it hard to function day to day, started one day it started and my life was forever changed. But I did have some issues before that. Although I had suspected endometriosis throughout my teens, we didn't officially get diagnosed until I had a laparoscopic surgery. They have to actually see it. And that was in 2017. It was after I had been married, after all my other stuff started. We decided to get that checked out. And that was when I officially got diagnosed with that. I also got diagnosed with PCOS around that same time. But both of those I have suffered with since I started having cycles in my teens. And my chronic migraines started when I was a teenager as well. We aren't 100% sure, but it's likely that it's due to a car accident I was in when I was 16. I have some issues with my bones. The top 2 bones of my spine are twisted. I've been seeing an upper cervical chiropractor. I will link the video down below about that. Those things did start earlier. I did always have kind of some weird health problems. My family used to always make fun of me because I would just have like weird little things that no one else had, and they weren't ever like affecting my life. But like I got kidney stones since I was 8 years old, almost every year. I've had just like weird, like I have these little weird bumps on my feet that I've had for a long time, and they move to different spots. So just stuff like that. I've always had weird health stuff, but all of my like things that made it hard to function as a human, minus when I was on my period and when I would have a migraine. Everything else, chronic pain, chronic fatigue, my anxiety also started, depression, my PTSD symptoms, my stomach issues, my nausea, my bloating, my stomach pain, my bathroom issues, like every other part of my body started on one particular day. So I got married in 2016, and when I got married, I went on a birth control, went on the Depo-Provera shot, and that is originally in my original video what I said I thought caused it. Now I think differently, but wouldn't surprise me if that had something to do with it, because it just threw off my hormones. It's supposed to last 3 months. I did not have a period for 9 months after I had that shot. So my guess is it kind of lasted 9 months in there. So that was a bummer, and that was my first thought, because I got that shot and then I got married. So we went to Jackson Hole on our honeymoon. We ate out the whole week, the entire week. We spent all of our money on food that week. And the last night of our honeymoon, we went and we got buffalo burgers. I still remember very vividly. My husband and I both got food poisoning that night right after that. We were both sick the drive home from Jackson Hole. We were both sick in our first home together for the first day. And then his got better. You know, it was like the 24-hour thing. It left his system and then he was good. I did not. I still have that stomach ache today. I still have the bloating today. I still have the bowel issues today. So it all started as gut issues, bloating, nausea, stomach pain, more of just an annoyance. And that was like 6 months into that. And I went to, GI doctors. I tried, just my primary care, and we tried a few things. We got a stomach scope. We tried some medications, and nothing was really coming up with anything. And about 6 months after the gut issues started, after that food poisoning, I started to get chronic fatigue, chronic pain, really bad muscle aches. I just felt like I had the flu all the time. And that continued. And about 6 months later, so about a year after I got the food poisoning, I was so ill that I had to quit my job. I had just started teaching school. I was a math teacher, and I had 1 month left in the school year, and I was so ill that I could not go another day. And so couldn't even make it till summer vacation. I just quit. And yeah, that's where things started. But the reason why I think that I did not get better from that food poisoning is maybe, the Depo-Provera shot, the birth control I was on, making me crazy hormonally, could have caused some problems. But now that I've been, matured a little and been through therapy, I think there's a lot more to it. So I also had a lot of emotional stressors, especially in my teens, with some family stuff going on. And at the time, my coping mechanism for the really hard things that were happening was to not talk about it. I didn't talk to friends or family. I didn't really have any adults to talk to. None really came to me. And so I just kind of learned okay, I'm not going to go to anybody else. I just held it in instead of letting myself feel sad or angry or whatever feeling that I needed to feel at that time. I told myself I was going to be strong, and I worked. And through high school and through college, I worked multiple jobs. I was pretty much busy all the time. If I wasn't in school, I was working on something. In fact, in college, I remember a few semesters where I worked 4 jobs and did school full time. I did online school so that I could work more. I decided that I was just going to put my head down, and I would work from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day with all of my jobs. And then on the weekends and in the mornings, I would do my school work. And that's how I lived for a while. And I think it was just the way that I got used to. It started out as a coping mechanism, and then it was just my way of life. I think there were a few issues here that led to me, developing some autoimmune type things. Is one, holding in emotions. And then I get married, and my brain, this is what my therapist thinks, it kind of relaxed, and it said, hey, we're safe now. And I wasn't physically unsafe. It was emotionally. My brain was oh, we're emotionally safe now. And it relaxed, and it relaxed so much that it went somewhere. There's a book called The Body Keeps the Score that my therapist recommended. And it talks about how if you don't deal with your emotions, they're going to go somewhere. And a lot of people who have had, I was diagnosed with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, which sounds like I've been in the war. It was not like that. But when you've been through something traumatic, you might have some post-stress symptoms. And that is what I was experiencing. And people with PTSD are more likely to have autoimmune diseases. It just makes so much sense to me. Our brains, my brain, I was I'm not going to fight this. I'm just going to numb it. I'm going to hide from it. And instead, my body is taking the brunt of that. So that's what I think happened. At the same time, which I did not see as a related thing until now that I look back, I started having night terrors pretty soon after I got married. I would wake up screaming in the middle of the night. It did all kind of start together. The night terrors started, but they weren't every night until I had my son a few years later. But I did start having the anxiety. I also became really depressed through that first year of being ill because I just felt alone. I think that was much more due to the loneliness that I was feeling, the pain that I was feeling, and feeling like I'd go to doctors and they wouldn't believe me because the testing was coming back normal. And if you've heard kind of my story before, I was tested for everything, ended up being told I had fibromyalgia about a year later. A few years after that, I found out I had POTS, which explains some of my symptoms, and I'm still on a journey. There's still things we're figuring out, so follow along if you aren't already, because I've had a few new things come up this year that are leading to some more answers. So subscribe if you want to hear more. You hear a lot in the chronic pain, fibromyalgia world, that your pain is all in your head, and I think some of it is, honestly. I do, but I think that it's both. In my particular case, everybody's different. Some people, it might all be psychological. It might be. For some people, it might be all physical. I think for me, it's a mix. I think what triggered it was my body kind of relaxing and coming down from a 10 plus years of stress to kind of giving up fighting and releasing all those emotions and physical pain. But then I think it caused some actual physical problems. And so it's a mix of both. That's what's so tricky about it, is I thought maybe going through the trauma therapy would help my chronic pain, and honestly, it really didn't. It's still there. I'm still struggling. I found many things to help. Like, don't get me wrong, I have found things to help, and really been working recently on my brain, which is why I launched a community for people who live chronically ill. If you feel alone, link down below, because we do weekly live calls, or you can watch the replays if you can't make it live. And it helps so much to know that you're not alone, because that is the one thing that I really struggled with the first year, is feeling alone. And I designed my community for myself in my first year of chronic illness. Make sure you subscribe. I would love to hear your story. How did your chronic illness start? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye, my friends.